Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here, and welcome back at last to the new Segue Says podcast. It's been an unprecedented 2 weeks off. I'm very sorry. There's nothing I could do about it. The first week I was sick as a dog, and while I've done podcasts while sick before, when you hear the songs that we're doing, you'll understand why there was just no way I could possibly have done it. And then the second week, my old phone, which has served me well for many years, finally gave up the ghost. It kept running out of space, even though I wasn't doing anything, resetting itself at absolutely no provocation. It was there was no way to record a video and then save it. There was any number of things going wrong. I honestly don't know, but that phone has. I'm looking for a clever phrase like hung up its cap or whatever, but there is none. It's a phone, so I guess it just hung up. In any case, I have a new phone. I am back. I am healthy again at last, and I am ready to dive right back in where we left off. Now, there are two songs that I've been planning to do for the past couple weeks, and then I'm tacking in a third one at the very end just as a bonus, as thanks for your patience and to make up for having missed a couple of weeks. So the two songs that the initial segue is created from have similar titles, so hopefully this won't get too confusing. It's Don't Stop by Fleetwood Mac and Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. So, again, try to follow this. So I initially created this for a show I was going to go back and do at my old elementary school in, I want to say, yes, the early winter of 2013, so January 2013. I had to cut Don't Stop for time, so I didn't get to do this segue, and unfortunately that turned out to be the final show at Ean Street Montessori, because I went there every year, but sadly the school is now closed. So this segue has a special place in my heart, even though it never got it didn't get used, because this was going to be the grand finale of that show. Of course, this was also over 2 years ago at a time when I could sing, so no, it was 2014, January 2014. I get my timelines mixed up. But in any event, I could still sing. So it's not really one I could perform now unless I change the keys. But we're just going to go with it. I'm going to be singing mostly in falsetto, so you might have to strain to hear me, but it helps that these songs are so well known. Now, Don't Stop was one of the 4 huge hit singles off of the Fleetwood Mac album Rumors, released in 1977, which of course was when John and Christine McVie had split and were preparing to divorce, and Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks had split up, and Mick Fleetwood and his wife, who were not splitting up, but apart from Mick Fleetwood's wife, everyone I've just mentioned is in the band, writing the songs. So you can imagine just how tumultuous the writing and recording of this album was. This is one of the more upbeat songs. It's one of Christine McVie's. She actually splits the lead vocals with Lindsey. And it's basically a blues boogie style piano. Christine cites Fats Domino as an inspiration. It's a 3-chord cycle, pretty much the entire thing. E major, D major, A major. And a verse chorus goes something like this. If you wake up and don't smile, if it takes just a little while, open your eyes and look at the day, and you'll see things in a different way. So don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop, 'cause it'll soon be here. It'll be here better than before, 'cause yesterday's gone. Yesterday's gone. You get the picture. It's sort of this. Da, da, da. Swing time. Now, you're probably already scratching your head because, as you know, Don't Stop Believin' sounds absolutely nothing like that. The only thing it has in common is the key of E. So this is obviously going to be one of those pivot point segues we've talked about before, where you just stop one and start the other. There's no ambiguous period. So Don't Stop Believin', as I'm sure you know, is Journey's biggest hit, and it's kind of become a punchline, which is really sad to me because it's actually a really good song. And when you listen, next time it comes on the radio and you have to listen to it because you can't go anywhere else, you're waiting in line, whatever, do me a favor. Once the second verse kicks in, listen to the drums and what Steve Smith is doing on the ride cymbal, where he hits it. I can't really replicate it on a piano, but listen to that. And then try to tell me that the arrangement of this song is not incredible. Because, yeah, it's a simple chord progression. It's almost the progression with one little variation. But the way they put it together, I think, is great. And it's such a shame that it got played too much. And, you know, people just generally laugh it off nowadays. Because it's actually a really good song. And you see that a lot with some of these 80s classics. Now, it goes, of course, just because we need to demonstrate the principles of it, like this. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere. Just a city boy, born and raised inside Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere. A singer in a smoky room, smelling white and cheap perfume. For a smile that can share the night, it goes on and on and on and on. Strangers waiting up and down the boulevard. There's shadows searching in the night. Street lights, people living just to find emotion, hiding somewhere in the night. And then that's where the drums that I'm talking about kick in and start doing the cool thing with the ride cymbals in the next verse. Of course, the actual chorus, if you will, doesn't really come to the end. Don't stop believing, holding to that feeling. Street lights, people. Now, what you notice about this song, and you'll know if you've seen my previous videos, is it mostly utilizes the progression. 1, 5, minor 6, 4. And as a matter of fact, this song is the launching point for the Axis of Awesome 4 chords medley that I've mentioned before, which everybody should check out. But what kind of redeems it a little bit is that it does that the first time, and then rather than go to the minor 6, it goes to the minor 3 every alternate time around. So that throws in a little more variety, and it's a 2-cycle type of phrase, or a 2-phrase progression, which is sadly more sophisticated than a lot of things you'll hear these days. But those are 2 primary songs, and remember that I've brought up this progression because it will come in handy when we're tacking on this 3rd song at the end. So, Don't Stop. The Fleetwood Mac Don't Stop as opposed to Don't Stop Believin'. You see, I told you this was going to get confusing. Basically ends on a jam over this continuing 3-chord progression. You can throw in the B. there's a vocal jam that they do at the end of this. It goes something like this. Ooh, don't you look back. Ooh, don't you look back. Ooh, don't you look back. And sometimes when they do this, they'll have the instruments drop out and just clap and have the audience sing along with that. And as a matter of fact, on the album The Dance, when they had the University of Southern California marching band on stage with them, Fleetwood Mac, left the stage and had the marching band carry this section out with the audience. Now, if you've got an attentive audience, they're going to make this much, much easier on you. And so sometimes if you don't have a fixed set list, and you're performing solo, piano bar style like I do, then the attentiveness of your audience can determine if this is a segue you want to attempt or not. But essentially, when you get to this section, the piano's still pretty heavy, but if you can get people singing along, don't you look back, you can ever so slightly decrease the piano. Don't you look back. And there's the HVAC system. I'm so out of practice making these, I forgot to turn it off. But right now, I really do not care. So eventually you get to the point you're still cycling the don't you look back. And you can start snapping. Try to get the audience to clap with you, because that will be very helpful. Don't you look back. You can drop out the piano completely. Don't you look back. And that don't you look back, the back lands on the one beat. So maybe now you see where we're going to go with this if you've watched past videos. Find a way to signal to the audience, say one more or something to indicate that this is going to be the last one. Ooh, don't you look back. And here you are, thanks to the same one chord. And of course, everybody knows this, so they realize what you've done. Just a small town girl, living in a lonely world. There you are. Now, I promised to tack on a bonus song, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. There is a song by Rush called The Spirit of Radio that is sort of their kind of satirical lampoon of the modern music industry, and modern as in the late 70s. I don't think it was 77. I think it was a little later than that. So this came a little after Fleetwood Mac, but a little before Journey. But essentially, it's a clever, if subtle, lampooning of the music industry, and so it uses a very simple chord progression for most of it. But it, of course, starts off with this thing that I don't know exactly how it goes. This ought to sound familiar, because it's the 1, 5, and it goes in the bass is the 3, like the second phrase in the Journey song, but rather than 3 minor, it's actually 1 major 7 over 3, so E major 7 over G sharp, then the 5, and then this little, the 4, and then this little turnaround of minor 6, 5. At roughly the same tempo as the Journey song. So after all of the madness of the intro, That's where it starts. Now, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and Neil Peart, please forgive me, but we're going to set aside that incredible intro for now because it does reappear midway through the song. So we won't lose it entirely. For the sake of this segue alone, I am actually dismantling the intro of a Rush song, and I feel somewhat sacrilegious doing that. But I think it'll pay off. Just work with me here. So you have your last chorus of Don't Stop Believin', which of course fades out. Hold on, street lights, people. And the verse of Spirit of Radio, or verse chorus, just to give you, goes something like this. Begin the day with a friendly voice, a companion unobtrusive. For that song that's so elusive, and the magic music makes your morning mood. Up on your way, hit the open road. There is magic at your fingers. For the spirit ever lingers, undemanding contact in your happy solitude. Invisible airwaves crackle with life, wrapped in tender bristle with the energy. Emotional feedback on a timeless wavelength, bearing a gift beyond price, almost free. And then it goes to the second verse, which oddly enough is about technology and machinery making modern music, as they say. And people with less than stellar musical abilities hiding behind technology and editing. And this was in the late 70s. If only they knew what was going to happen. But I encourage listening to the song, especially from a musical history perspective, because there's a funny sort of homage to Simon and Garfunkel at the end, after another crazy... This is... The words of the prophets were written on the studio walls and concert halls. And echoes with the sounds of salesmen. Salesmen! It's, as you can hear, it's a very smart song. And you know, as a musician, with the prospects of the modern industry and the disappearing concept of musical integrity, it means a great deal to me. So obviously, it's the verse that's important because it sounds a lot like the second half of the Journey song. The only difference is opposed to 3 minor, it's 1 over the 3, and then this little turnaround at the end. So, when you end Don't Stop Believin', you're cycling over this progression. Now, still playing the Journey progression, the 2-phrase progression. In the day with a friendly voice, companion unobtrusive. Makes a tension there, but it still works. On that song that's so elusive, and the magic music makes your morning mood. Now do the second half of the Journey progression here, and add the turnaround. Up on your way, hit the open road. There is magic at your fingers. And now you're playing it fully in the style of the Rush song. And there you go. So that's Don't Stop into Don't Stop Believin' into the Spirit of Radio. Little complex, had to maneuver a little bit, but I think it was worth it, especially given the 2 weeks we had to wait to make this happen. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your patience. You know, I can't promise there'll never be another one of these gaps because I can't, I can't see the future. I would have promised that it couldn't have happened before, but it did. So here's hoping it doesn't happen again. Thanks for your patience. Thanks as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And with any luck, I will see you next week.